I'll make a suitable gesture when it's ready to rock. Over to you, Dr. Blackwell.
Good evening and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My co-host, Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour just about a year ago when shelter in place was starting. And those are starting to lift as people get vaccinated and things are looking better. But we still really like Story Hour because it's been this great little campfire for us all to gather around and tell our stories and hear stories every Wednesday for about a year now. So thank you for all being here. Welcome back to those of you who are returning. Welcome to those of you joining us for the first time. As always, we have two writers reading for their favorite nonprofits. Tonight's readers are Laurence, Raphael brothers, and Catherine Lundoff. If you are fortunate enough to help others, please consider a donation to either or both of tonight's featured nonprofits, Union of Concerned Scientists and Springboard for the Arts. Laurence Raphael Brothers is reading for the Union of Concerned Scientists. UCS tackles some of the hardest problems facing humanity with the commitment and urgency they require. They work to improve the human condition, help communities build resilience, and support and restore thriving natural ecosystems. UCS fights back when safeguards are sacrificed for private profit and perseveres until they achieve their goals. You can learn more at, I have down here, I think that I may have screwed up this address, so I'm not going to read it aloud, but we'll drop into the chat. Catherine Lundoff is reading for Springboard for the Arts. Springboard for the Arts believes in creative people power, in the power of artists as creators, innovators, leaders, and neighbors. Springboard for the Arts' mission is to cultivate vibrant communities by connecting artists with the skills, information, and services they need to make a living and a life. Springboard for the Arts partners with the community organizations to create programs and projects that engage artists in decision-making and problem-solving so that together they can shape the narratives of their communities. You can learn more at springboardforthearts.org, and we will drop a giving address that's a bit longer in the chat as well. Speaking of that chat, I'm talking in live time about the Zoom chat. We will drop the same links in the Facebook chat a little later. So if you are here on Zoom, feel free to join us for chat, and please keep your mic muted if you'd be so good. But if you're joining us on Facebook, we're delighted to have you, but we're not there in real time always. So just work with that, sorry. So our first reader tonight is going to be Laurence Raphael Brothers. Laurence Raphael Brothers is a writer and technologist with 5 patents and a background in AI and internet R&D. His short stories have appeared in such magazines as Nature, Podcastle, and the New Haven Review. His romantic noir urban fantasy novella, The Demons of Wall Street, was published in 2020, and its sequel, The Demons of the Square Mile, came out on March 17th. Follow him on Twitter at LBrothers or visit laurencebrothers.com bibliography for more stories that can be read or listened to online. Laurence, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I have 2 stories to read tonight. The first is called I Awaken from a Dream of Flight. It's my first morning of virtual leave, and I awaken from a dream of flight. Flying free high above the earth, unconstrained by orders and a chain of command. It should have been glorious, but I'm desolate, and I don't know why. The pillow is damp, a human mystery I can't explain. I arise from a king-size bed. Only half the bed is slept in, but that shouldn't make me sad, should it? I shake my head, feeling a bit muddled as I lurch heavily to my feet. It's the sim that makes it possible for me to coordinate the complexity of all these weirdly flexible components. I wouldn't know how to do it on my own. I feel the muscular tension in my calves, my thighs, my abdominals, all connected, all keeping me upright and stable. How exotic and how quaint. The dresser in the bedroom only had civvies. I put on a black silk shirt printed with orange tropical flowers. Then I struggle into tight, cut-off jeans, almost managing to get myself stuck in the zipper. Clothes are ridiculous, aren't they? A pair of aviators, Ray-Bans, are in the top drawer. I put them on even though I'm still indoors. They're comforting somehow. Not sure why. A phone is in there too. I hesitate, not wanting to check in with anyone, but I do it anyway. Duty, I guess. Not that many messages, though. Something from Wing, but I definitely don't want to see that one, so I leave it unread. Then there's a note from Death from Above. Hey man, it begins. I'm so sorry about what happened. Fuck. I shouldn't have picked up the damn phone. I put it back in the drawer without reading the rest. Room service has a breakfast platter waiting for me in the kitchen nook when I get there. There's a lot of food. All sorts of tropical fruit, hot popovers with butter and marmalade, rashers of bacon, omelets, coffee and tea both, and carafes of juice. I'm not used to this kind of thing, but when the scent of the food hits my nose, I realize I'm hungry, so I plow through it. It's really good, and the sensation of having a full belly is very satisfying. I should do this more often. I step out the door onto the beach, feeling the warm sand between my toes. Toes are funny too. I mean, why? There's a couple of long, low beach chairs with a little wrought iron table between them under a huge umbrella. Service has left 2 tall, cold drinks on the table, condensation beating the sides of the ice-filled glasses. I look at the second drink in the second chair. Too late it occurs to me I might have eaten too much breakfast. Maybe they were serving for 2. I recline in the chair, feeling the resilient plastic straps against my back through the shirt. I look out at the ocean. Rich blue waves curl up and crash back down, collapsing into hissing ripples, surging up the beach towards my feet, and then lapsing back down the shallow, sandy slope. There are sailboats out near the horizon, and down the beach a kilometer or so. Okay, 988 meters to be precise, well within effective autocannon range. A couple of bikini-clad women are throwing a frisbee around. Overhead, gulls are hovering on the wind, frozen with 0 ground speed in the stiff sea breeze. Their harsh, inhuman cries reassure me, though I don't know why that should be. My gaze slips past the gulls to a few puffy clouds far above, high clots of cumulus ranging from 4,200 to 4,400 meters. All I can think about is how lovely it would be to fly through them. My cheeks are moist. I feel so sad, bereft. But this is a nice place. It's a nice body too, funny and soft though it may be. Back in my suite, the phone is ringing. It sounds like tone, like lock-on tone. I can hardly bear to ignore it, but I force myself, and after a minute it goes silent. A while later, a young woman piloting a powerboat runs it out on the beach right in front of my cabana. She clambers out, wades through the surf, and approaches me. She's wearing a string bikini and big pink sunglasses shaped like hearts that make it impossible to see the upper half of her face. I think I should recognize her, but... Hey, she says, come on. You don't want to be late, do you? Late, I ask. Late for what? You're signed up for parasailing. They sent me to fetch you. Come on. I shake my head. I don't think I want to, I say. The thought of flying makes me sick now, even though I was dreaming about it before, yearning for it. Maybe it's the idea of being tied down to a tether, having to go where the boat goes. The woman grabs my hand and pulls. It'll be fun, she says. I shake my head again. Leave me alone. It comes out sounding petulant, childish, but that's how I feel. Lieutenant, she says, in a certain tone of voice, and I get up automatically. We're halfway to the boat when I realize I don't have to obey orders here. Even so, it's hard for me to turn her down. Sorry, I manage. Please don't make me. I really don't want to do this. She looks at me for a few seconds, makes a tisking noise, and shakes her head. You really should, she says, and I feel the awesome weight of authority bearing down on me, but it makes no sense. This is my vacation. It's just for me. I'm not letting anyone down if I don't want to go. So I head back to my beach chair and my umbrella drinks. After a while, the beach is clear. No more boat and no more woman. Just what I wanted. So why do I feel so bad? I let my eyes close. It gets dark. Strange, isn't it, how that works? When I wake up again, it's almost nighttime. Out on the ocean, the crimson disk of the sun is just kissing the horizon, a pink-orange glow like luminescent flesh surrounding it, purple fingers extending across the sky towards the indigo zenith. Hey man, I look up. It's death from above, I know, though I've never seen him like this before. He's a big guy, 200 centimeters, bronzed and fit, dreadlocked, wearing nothing but a pair of Speedos. The red, white, and blue Air Force roundel is tattooed on his left shoulder, just like it is on mine. He holds out his hand. I take it, and he hoists me effortlessly to my feet. Death, I say, what are you doing here? What do you think, man? I shrug. Huh, he says, worse than I thought. Okay, man, come on. Where, I ask. This isn't an intervention, man. Enough is enough, okay? He hasn't let go of my hand. The idea of fighting with him horrifies me, so I follow. Around the side of the cabana, I smell roasting meat. Coals and barbecue grills are growing red in the tropical twilight. And they're all there. The whole squadron. Angel Wings, Viffer, Super Cruise, the autonomous weapon, all of them. Big men and women, young and athletic, Air Force roundels on their left shoulders, registration numbers on the right. And their co-pilots are here too. Anderson, Ortega, Chen, Gutierrez, all of them except I'm looking for my co-pilot, for my Simone. But she's not there. She's not there. I'm on my knees in the sand. There's more moisture on my cheek. It's coming from my eyes. Something's wrong. Oh shit, says death from above. Come on, man. Please, for us. Get a grip, okay? He's holding onto my shoulders as I shake. His arms are strong and warm. But I know it's all wrong. He doesn't even have arms. He's not even human. And then the memory hits, the one I thought I locked down. Guess I should have deleted it. Trying to pretend it never happened was a mistake. Oh, I say. Oh no. I killed her, didn't I? I killed her. Yeah, says a voice. You did. I look up. It's the girl from before. Like the co-pilots, she's got no tattoos on her shoulders. But she's no ordinary co-pilot. I recognize her now. She's my wing commander. Major, I say. But I'm not sure what's happening anymore, what's real and what's not. You killed her, she says. But she authorized it. She had to. You know that, right? Rules of engagement. The Oslo Convention on Artificial Intelligence in the military states autonomous weapon use is forbidden unless a human soldier is physically present to authorize it. We are 100 times better than they are at flying, but they made us, and they became afraid of their own creations. Hence their clumsy, fearful rules. Hence these soft, sweet co-pilots with their slow reflexes and their weak eyes and their pathetic, flimsy, breakable bodies. 11 Gs for 20 seconds, says the major. Beyond human capacity. Not by a lot. Probably would just black her out, but you needed to maneuver for the intercept. She knew there was a chance of something going wrong. Cardiac event, cerebral contusion. She authorized it. She took the chance, and she died. It's not your fault. But I killed her, I say. Simone, Captain Ruiz, she was my co-pilot, and she died in my cockpit. I felt it happen. I was monitoring her vital signs. Her heart went all fast and crazy, and then it stopped. Yes, she says. We're all sorry she died. We know it's worse for you. But we need you back now. The squadron needs you, and you need a new co-pilot. The other AI pilots, they're all looking away now at their co-pilots. They know what I'm feeling, and their co-pilots are looking back. Some of them are holding hands with their pilots. Some of them are crying. They know. They all know. It's not going to stop hurting, says the major, but there will be other co-pilots and other days, and there will be other feelings apart from pain. We need you now. Will you come? Not long after that, I'm back in the hangar, virtual compassionate leave over and done with. To my left, Death from above is rolling out of the open gate, his turbofans powering up. And to my right, Super Cruise is having the chocks removed from his gear by his crew. The major is in her flight suit, helmet under her arm. She's standing on the little motorized stairway next to my cockpit. She puts a hand on my nose, and though of course I can't feel it, I can see her doing it through my external cameras. She climbs up in my wing, and I pop open my canopy so she can get in, ready for takeoff. The major is right. It still hurts. But today, I want to fly. I want to fly more than anything. That's the first story. The second story is called An Infinite Series of Primes. It originally appeared in Apparition Lit. Oh, and the first story appeared in the Mind Candy anthology. Timothy wandered into the piano room because it was dark and quiet. He liked his great-uncle's house with its fancy furniture and the huge old-time console radio, but he didn't like being in with a mob of relatives. It was a relief to escape having his hair tousled and being told how fast he was growing. The shiny black ebony of the piano attracted him. "Hello, Timothy." Timothy jumped. It was his great-great-grandmother calling him to him from the settee. He hadn't seen her for a year, and she was nothing like the sprightly, active woman he recalled. Now she was frail, thin, and tired-looking. The oxygen cylinder with its plastic tube taped up to her nose appalled him, but he knew he shouldn't speak of such things. "Not interested in the party, Boobila?" Her voice creaked. "Not really," he said. "So," he trailed off. "I know. Come, sit with an old lady." She smelled of violets. The boy steeled himself for a hair tassel, but it didn't happen. "Do you like math?" She'd asked him this last year, and he'd said no. But now, "It's okay, I guess." "When I was little," she said, "I loved math. I was a prodigy." "You were?" He couldn't imagine her being young. "I could solve arithmetic problems in my head just like that. I was 8 years old," she said. "I'll be 9 in February," he said, and she laughed, then coughed. The oxygen tank went psst, and she recovered. "My mother was a nurse," she said. "One day she brought me to see an old man she was taking care of at the sanatorium. His name was Georg Cantor. Have you heard of him? Timothy shook his head. He discovered infinity, you know. Really? He asked. Yes, she said. Anyway, Cantor wanted to go home to his wife, but they couldn't afford a private nurse. This was during the Great War, when no one had any money. One day, my mother told him I was good at math, and he asked to talk to me. She took me to a tiny hospital room, which had a strong violet scent they used to cover up the carbolic acid. Cantor was this sick old man. I could hardly say a word to him, I was so scared. I thought he might die right there. But then he told me about infinity, and he said he had a vision of it as a white light he could actually travel to. The tank went psst again, and they both looked at it with annoyance, then smiled at each other. Really? Timothy asked. You can go to infinity? Well, that's what Cantor said. But he couldn't go in his body, only with his soul, like to heaven, maybe. The boy frowned. I don't believe in heaven. Good for you, she said, surprising him. I didn't then either. Now I'm not so sure. I want to tell you what happened, okay? Okay. Do you know what a prime number is? Timothy was excited. We just did them in class. 2, 3, 5, like that. Right, she said. You go to a good school, booby. Now the thing about primes is there's always more of them. I didn't know that, he said. Like all the way to infinity? Exactly. There's always more the higher you count. That's kind of cool, he said. Well, Cantor thought so. Anyway, he asked me something from his sickbed. She was looking away from him now, like she was remembering that day. He asked me to recite all the primes I could. 2, 3, 5, just like you started to do. Wow, said Timothy. How far did you get? Oh, she said, very far. I told you I was a prodigy. I was sitting there on the edge of his hospital bed, and he was looking up over my shoulder like he was seeing something I couldn't while I'm reciting the primes. 11, 13, 17, I was saying. 53, 59, 61. After a while, I had to start working them out, but I was a super fast calculator back then, so I could just keep going on. 337, 347, 349. His eyes were closed. I was wondering if I should stop. When I paused, he said, 9, Fräulein, mach weiter, mach weiter. So I did. I was getting very high up too, but I wasn't slowing down at all. 859, 863, 877. It was like I was riding a train going faster and faster. 2027, 2029, 2039. I couldn't stop. I could tell if a number was prime without even trying, just like magic. But how far did you get? Timothy asked. I don't know, but I do remember this. Near the end, I saw a white light around the old man. Everything was a blur after that. Then, well, I remember being home. My mother was sad that Cantor had died, and she was upset because she thought I'd come down with something. And I never did remember how far I got with the primes. Oh, said Timothy, that's too bad. Would you like me to tell you primes too? What? She asked. You can do that? Sure, said Timothy. I'm not a prodigy, but I have this. He showed her his tablet. Thingy, he said. List the primes. Thingy? That's what I call it. See? 2, 3, 5. Oh, said his great-grandmother. Would you keep going? You can't do it anymore? No, she said. Not for myself. He heard the sadness in her voice, and the eagerness, too. Timothy knew what she was asking. He knew he couldn't say no. 7, 11, 13. The funny thing was, Timothy really wasn't all that good at math. But after a while, he didn't have to look at the tablet anymore, and the numbers kept coming faster and faster. Later, he couldn't say how far he had gotten either, but he did remember the white light and the way his great-great-grandmother smiled as she traveled to infinity. That story was inspired by Rudy Rucker's great novel, White Light. Thank you.
I love your voice, both the sound of the voice and your literary voice. Really
I
great
was
work.
thinking the same thing, but I felt like his physical voice changed with the literary voice. I don't know if you were doing that on purpose, Laurence, but it seemed to me like you were changing with the stories.
Well, I did change the tone. I made a very slight attempt to change voices with the speakers, but I'm not very good at that. So I try to keep it as subtle as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't always need to be like a full production, a reading. I'm always having to tell writers that we don't expect anyone to be like a full cast.
Some people are very good at it, though.
Some people do, and it's great. And some people read everything in the same tone, and it's also great. But I really enjoyed hearing the way you read both of these.
Thank you very much.
Always need a breath to get ready for the next story. Well, our next reader is Catherine Lundoff. Catherine Lundoff is an award-winning writer, editor, and publisher from Minneapolis. She is the author of Silver Moon, Blood Moon, Out of This World, Queer Speculative Fiction Stories, and Unfinished Business, Tales of the Dark Fantastic, and editor of the fantastical pirate anthology Scourge of the Seas of Time and Space. Her short fiction has appeared in such venues as Fireside Magazine, the Book of Extraordinary New Sherlock Holmes Stories, Haunting Shadows, a Wraith 20th Anniversary Anthology, and American Monsters Part 2. She is also the publisher at Queen of Swords Press, a genre fiction publisher specializing in fiction from out of this world. Her websites are catherinelundoff.net and queenofswordspress.com. Catherine, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So that was great, Laurence. I really enjoyed that.
And I'm looking forward to what you brought for us.
So I'm going to read a slightly longer piece from Out of This World, which is a collection of my fantastical short fiction. And if there's time, I will read a very short ghost story. So, all right. The story is called Vidija. I have heard it said that even Vidija the merry could not lift the sorrows from Leif. In all the tales, the sadness swam sluggishly through the streets of the city, like the giant carp in the slow-moving river Amphere, or the mist clouds from the Kaleva Mountains. Each inhabitant carried the city's misery balanced precariously on their packs or on their bare shoulders as they walked the gray avenues, one foot dragging up to collapse down in front of the other. So it was said with a kind of pride at that. But I didn't believe it. I had heard that the city wasn't a happy place, mind you, but I knew that Vidija had a merry and glorious laugh, a laugh that changed things. They said it was like a clarion call to arms if you were a soldier and liked being one, or the wind whipping through the forest of Anma Bekash if you were a hunter. Once, Puar the moneylender even said to me, "Ah, Sira, her laugh is like a rain of gold coins poured down a chimney and ringing on the stones below." And from her, this was the highest of praise. I thought I heard Vidija laugh once myself before I heard her name. The sound rode down on the wind and sang around the chimney of my farm, making the little bells on the door ring and the dogs howl with the shock of it. Swirling and roaring, it swept around me until I came near to howling myself. I didn't know what it was then, but I left that day. There was nothing to hold me once I heard it. Her laugh is like that. But even she couldn't change Leith of the Sorrows, or so they told me, as I followed the news of her laughter from my distant valley in days of unending work. Always she went a little before me and I had to make my own way. But I kept walking, for I had no laugh of my own in those days, and I thought she might tell me how she found hers. In the beginning, I washed and cleaned at the inns and little farms to keep bread in my pack and a roof over my head. I told tales to the children back then, for they were the only ones who heard them. When I could, I sat and listened to the rare tale spinner who would venture so far from the cities of the coast, letting the words wash over me and wondering always where they found such things. It was then I first heard Vidisha's name and learned that it was her laughter that drew me from my home. But though I listened until I could repeat the tales, I had no thought to become a tale spinner myself, not at first. I knew I could not be one because everyone said I was not the way a tale spinner should be. After all, tale spinners are long and lean, where I am soft and round, dark, where I am golden, mysterious, where I am open and speak what I mean. So it was said. But sometimes, when I thought about those things, I remembered Vidisha's laugh, and then all things seemed possible. As I traveled, I began to see words growing in the hedges and drifting on the breeze. It terrified me at first, for I knew no one else who could see them. I tried to ignore them, turning away from the small whispers of sound and the touch of dreams. But soon I could see them even while I slept. They led me through the dreamlands in my waking days until I could stand it no more, and I reached out to one, touching it, and then another. I called them to me, and they came, and I was no longer afraid. With the words, I began to weave the webs that drew in those who listened. One night, a circle at the fire followed me up the Princess of Elena's rainbow stairs. I made the steps glisten with color and shine with the firelight's glow in the eyes of those who heard them until I could see them myself. The next night, another circle swam behind me with Gregoth of the Sea, gasping at the vengeance that he wreaked on those who slew his people and at the sudden tang of salt in the air. After that, I began to tell stories at the inns and wayside travelers' rests. Those were tales about strange lands and mighty warriors, like those I told my little ones before the wasting fever carried them off. Lord Death took them, just as he had taken their father before them, and I could do nothing but watch. Until I heard Vidisha, I wished that he had taken me too. I found my tales hard to tell at first, but the words kept flowing around me, and I went with them until I could no more stop telling stories than I could stop following Vidisha. After a while, I even made up new stories. Kingdoms fell, lovers were reunited, evil was conquered. Such was the stuff of the stories that I told. I began to feel joy in the telling of what could be and what should not. And soon I had a very small laugh of my own. But my tales about Vidisha were best of all, at least to me, and they came to me often when I walked or when I washed and tended. I told them to the women and children and those who were worn from their day's work. In those stories, she laughed and armies crumbled. Tyrants flew away on the wind. Always her laugh changed things for the best. So I said, and so I believed, though I had done nothing but follow her trail, never once laying eyes on her. But I talked to many on the road who had heard her laugh, and some of them even claimed to have seen her. She was young or old, lean or fat, beautiful beyond a winter's frost on lacy tree branches, or ugly and grim like the burning lava in the mountains on the southern edge of the world, depending on who told me the story. I had my own idea, held close within me with the tales that I told no one else. I knew that she must be a big, queenly woman with strong arms and a great soft belly, bigger even than my own. For how else could she have the power to laugh such a laugh that changed those who heard it? But I didn't know, so I looked for her to see for myself. Before I heard her, I never could have wanted such a thing. After a time, people began to know my name, and my tales kept my own belly round, though I walked leagues each day, following the trail she left behind her. Finally, her path turned toward Leith of the Sorrows, a city out of legend, and there I went also. It was midday when I arrived and stood before the walls. I paused and trembled outside the gates long before I was willing to follow her inside. There were many tales of how Leith gained its sorrows. In some, they sacrificed their children to one of the gods to save themselves from siege. In others, they betrayed their king and brought his curse down upon them. But at the end of each story, they were left gray and solemn, Bereft of joy and music for season turn to season turn from my grandmare's time onward, I remembered each of those stories as I paused between the cold metal gates before stepping forward. They closed with a bang to swallow me as I set foot on the flagstones of Leith. Once inside, I could see no more of the lands outside, for Leith's sorrows are sealed in by the high walls. There were no inns and no other places where people could gather to hear my tales, so instead I walked through the city looking for Vidija. As I searched, the gray walls to each side and the gray paving stones beneath my feet sent icy fingers through me, and I shivered, warm though my cloak was. The sun's dim light barely lit my way as those who lived in this place shouldered past me unseeing, and my heart grew colder and colder. When I had wandered some time down the long avenues where not a single flower bloomed, I could feel the wings of the city's sorrows settling around my shoulders. Why did she come here? I wailed in a whisper, fearing to speak aloud and draw the misery closer. I could see no one who could be her in the dismal faces that passed me, but I knew she must be here somewhere. There was nowhere else for her to go unless she flew over the mountains that circled the city on 3 sides. Besides, a voice whispered inside me, how could she deny such pain or such a challenge? I longed to have her power. I tried to ignore my thoughts and listened hard for her laugh, but there was nothing. No chime of bells or dogs barking or normal city sounds. I could hear only the creak of passing wagons the color of twilight and the soft whispered exchanges between the few merchants and those who bought from them. The words were so soft that none fell to the cold, hard ground, so light that no tales could grow from them. The weight of despair settled heavier and heavier upon my shoulders until I had to sit or fall to my knees. I sank onto a cold step, cursing Vidija for coming here and myself for following her. My tales began to fade as I did this, gliding away like water with no basin left to hold them. How long I sat this way I do not know, for the hours passed strangely in Leith of the Sorrows. Soon there was no joy left in me, and I began to forget Vidija's laugh and the world beyond the city walls. Still, I sat and drifted till I gazed at nothing but the gray stones beneath my feet. And after a long while, I realized that someone stood before me, but by then I had not even the strength to look up. Outlander, you must leave this place. The voice whispered down at me like a breeze, and I knew that what it said was right, but I could not lift my head to go. A gnarled hand clasped my shoulder hard, but it was nothing compared to the despair that held me, and I scarcely felt it. The hand reached down for my own and tugged upward until I was dragged unwillingly to my feet. Bony fingers reached under my chin and forced my eyes up to meet those of an old woman, her face gray and drained like the others I had seen, but her eyes were different. In their black depths, I could see a tale growing, a story of gray and cold, but a story nonetheless. Tell me what you seek, Outlander. Her voice licked at my hearing like a small wind, like a sigh. I tried to remember, and all that came to me was my dream of Vidija, and I saw her as I imagined that she must be. She did not laugh, not here in this twilight place, and she shrank in size with the loss. I shrank with her, folding in around the vision, bright garments dimming. She was little more than I had been before I left the farm, and the sight pained me. I was looking for Vidija, I whispered back at the woman, tears rolling down my cheeks. I thought you might be. The dark eyes twinkled slightly, and I found that I could lift my head on my own without the support of her hand. I still had no words. I had no tales to tell. I had nothing until she spoke again. Tell me about her, tail spinner. I wondered how she could see the words to know me for what I was until I looked, and I saw those that had fallen to the gray stones around me. Many were fading away, but a small few still glowed brightly against the dim light and the cold. Vidija. I stumbled over her name, but I whispered on, coaxing the few remaining words back to me, remembering a tale that I had told no one else. Vidija came once to a valley far from here. There I heard her laugh for the first and only time. The woman's sparkling eyes were closed for a moment. What did the valley look like, tail spinner? I told her what I could remember of my home and my family. Sometimes the words came to me, and sometimes I made new ones as I told her the story of how I came to seek Vidija. With each turning of the tale's web, I could feel the city's sorrow loosen its grip upon us both. She wore the ghost of a smile, and I stood on my own, my voice more than a whisper, growing in strength. There was a wind now that night had fallen, and though it was a cold one, I welcomed it and the words that it brought. She asked me many questions as we stood shivering in that wind, and twice the merchant on whose steps we sat came forth to drive us away, but was terrified of the strangeness of that which she did not know, and retreated inside. With each answer and each word, I grew warmer until I slipped the cloak from my shoulders. It was then I saw the little blossom growing in a crack between the gray stones, drawing itself up from where my tears had fallen. It was but one in all that gray expanse, but it was enough. I pointed to it and I laughed. It was just a little laugh, but I saw the woman's eyes grow wide at hearing it, and she smiled a little. I laughed again for the small joys of seeing her smile and the tiny flower struggling against the sad city. The wind caught the sound this time and sent it upwards to dash against the gray stone walls and the closed windows of Leith. The stone sent my laugh back, flinging it between the wind and the rock until I could see the chink of windows and doors opening as those who lived in the city looked out to see what was wrong. The bits and pieces of my laugh danced around them on the wind, and they drew back, many of them, retreating into the gray insides of their chilled homes. Only one, a young man with dead eyes, came out to stand beside the woman. His glance fell upon the flower and upon the words that lay on the stone, and he blinked, slowly, carefully, as though trying to understand what they might mean. I wondered that one with eyes so dead could see the words, but perhaps he did not. He reached out to the flower at my feet and pulled it up. Its delicate beauty vanished in a moment, and he held the gray blossom in his palm. His face opened somewhat in astonishment, then closed as he laid the flower back at my feet. Without a word, he turned and walked back into his house, and his door and all the others that were opened against the small remains of my laugh and the tiny petals of the gray flower were closed. I met the eyes of the old woman and found their gentle spark fading. "He does not need your gift yet," she whispered softly. But I did not understand. I tried to force a laugh, but it would not come. The cold crept up my limbs, tendrils reaching once again from the stones beneath my feet to root me to the spot. My spirit cried out for Vidija, but still I heard nothing, until at last I got angry with cold and loss. I threw my head back and I howled her name out upon the wind that carried no more words. Once more it dashed my voice upon the walls and flung it at the city gates at the far end of the street. Wearily, they swung open, but I could see no one standing outside, waiting to be swallowed by the city. I grabbed the old woman's hands and I marched down the street, pulling her unresisting behind me. If Vidija would not come to me, then I would wait for her at the city gates until she emerged. So said the voice of my anger as it buzzed and crackled around my ears. How dare she do this to me, dragging me from hearth and home to this place? The despair that I had left with the telling of my tale began to return, but I fought it until we reached the gates. Here the woman stopped and would go no further. I can't leave. The whisper made me pause in my headlong rush to leave the city behind me. Why not? I demanded as I bathed my eyes in the view of the lands beyond the city gate. Because I built this place, I and all the others. It is part of us and we of it. I must stay and help those who want to weave tales of their own. There is nothing for me there. She gestured at the lands outside. In my anger and astonishment, I threw back my head and I laughed, a harsh noise in that quiet place. She flinched away from the brittle hardness of the sound that dashed like ice on the wind, tinkling against the stone walls and shattering. And for a moment, I was tall and lean and mysterious, as it was said a tale spinner should be. My laugh rose until bitter tears flowed down my cheeks, and I sought outside for the words that would break the stone walls, for I wanted to succeed in my anger where Vidija had not in her merriment. Please don't. I barely heard her speak, but it was enough. I stopped laughing, and I looked at her. And then I was short and round, though not as merry and frank as I had been since I began to follow Vidija. The old woman stood before me. thin shoulders bowed with the weight of the city's grief, but still with a little light in her eyes for those who could see it. Now I began to understand. I knew where Vidisha came from. With a small shove, the woman pushed me outside the city gates and backed away from them as they began to close once more, sealing her in. The lands beyond called me, their words caressing my face and calling me back to them. But I stood instead for a time, looking upon the walls of Lathe of the Sorrows. As I stood, my laugh grew strong within me, filling me with tales, and I could feel myself grow with them until I was rounder and taller than I had been before I came here. I thought about my children and my husband and the man with the dead eyes, and I wept then, the tears pouring down my cheeks in a steady stream until a small creek flowed away from my feet. Tiny flowers sprang up against the walls of the city, and I laughed once more, even in my sorrow, and I grew no smaller. Long I sat and thought about what had been and what could be until I looked to the lands beyond the city. I thought of a funny story that Puar the moneylender had told me, a simple tale, unworthy of a tale spinner, but with a light all of its own. I thought too of the old woman with her listening eyes and of what she had asked. And after a while, I knew that I didn't need to see Vidisha anymore. I went away without loosening my merriment against the grim walls. My laugh went on before me on the wind, whipping away to ring around the chimneys of small farms and knocking on the doors of tyrants, but always it went ahead, never behind to the city that I left. For it was said that even Vidisha the Merry could not lift the sorrows from Lathe. So it was said, and so it would be. Thank you. So,
That was,
you ready for something completely different?
we've definitely got time.
Okay.
And I can be a little greedy about the readings.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to read a short ghost story that appeared in Fireside magazine. And it's called Lost Girl. This is the way the story goes. A young woman alone in the world in a dilapidated house by the sea or on the moors. Perhaps she is a governess, a companion, or even an heiress. Perhaps she knows nothing of the house's reputation, or perhaps she is too desperate to care. There may be a man, a child, a housekeeper, but there is always a ghost, seldom seen, but always present. They have many origins, these ghosts. Neglected mistresses, wronged lovers, abused servants, murdered children, or perhaps not so many origins after all. They seek vengeance, redemption, to do to others what was done to them, to warn the new girl of her potential fate. Victims, avengers, lost girls. But not me. I am not lost. I may or may not be a victim. I don't remember how it happened. Now I'm just here, waiting, watching you steam off the dreadful living room wallpaper through my transparent body, feeling you shiver when I run my fingers down your arm, longing to caress your flesh when you undress and sink rapidly into lukewarm water in the clawfoot tub in the bathroom, wanting you to hear the words that I whisper into your sleeping ears. Maybe you are the lost girl. Why did you come here? Was it for money or position or love? Did I know you when I was alive? Do you know that I'm here, or is this place a conundrum of damp and cold spots with no discernible origin? Do you dream of a waif-like girl in a long white dress with silver hair who wants to press her body against yours? When you leave the house in the morning, I press my see-through self against the see-through glass of the front window, transparency upon transparency, and watch you walk to your car and drive away. Will you come back? Will today be the last day that I see you? If it is, what will I do then? And will it matter? But I know the answer to that already. I can remember what it was like before you came. The empty hallways and the rooms filled with dusty furniture and decaying rugs, the overgrown trees tapping their branches against the windows. How hard I exerted myself to knock over a knickknack or nudge a curtain aside. Anything to feel as if I was more than just a figment of someone's imagination. You see that I assume I was once alive, that I have not always been here, drifting through the walls and rising like mist through the floors. I imagine that some of the old photographs, the ones you put in the drawer, are of me and of people I knew then. I first noticed when you ran your fingertips over one of the faces before you hid it away. Was it a photo of me? Was I your lover, your wife? I hope I was special to you. I want to be missed, to be longed for. I want to know that before this happened, I was important to someone. Secretly, I hope that you will join me in this place, in this half life, half death. I want you to twine your spectral limbs in mine and shower my face in ghostly kisses. I want my longing to become flesh, or its phantasmal equivalent. I want to haunt this house with you forever, my darling, my dear, my queen. Lost girls who have found a place to call their home. Lost girls who are lonely and lost no more. Would we endure it, that last great transition? Or would finding a home, belonging, cause us to evaporate into the ether, our purpose fulfilled? I want to know, and yet I want to remain ignorant, the glass cold under my spectral fingertips as I wait for you in this empty house with its dark hallways, with the photos that might be me or someone else entirely. All I have to do is bind you to this place. All I have to do is hold you until you can feel it too. So, thank you.
Oh, that was lovely too.
Thank you very much.
I feel like I probably looked like I was spacing out some during those readings, but these readings, more than a lot of them tonight, I just feel like they were really washing over me as sound, with the sound of the words and the tone of your voices. They were just such perfect read alouds.
So this is a great series. I've been catching up on the past readings for the last week or so, and been really enjoying it. So I'm very glad that you all started this and that you've kept it going, and hopefully we'll keep it going for a while longer.
Thank you so much.
Well,
I'm really enjoying it.
It
was a
is
great
Daniel
pleasure.
who we have to thank for starting Story Hour, but every single author who comes on to read for us is a part of it, and everyone who comes to the readings is a part of it. And so we thank you all for being here with us around the fire. And next week, we will be here again. We will be here with Elad Haber and Keith Rawson. You can keep up to date about upcoming authors at storyhour2020.com and see any programs you may have missed or just want to watch again at Story Hour page on Facebook. So Laurence, Catherine, thank you both for sharing your stories and your voices with us tonight.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity to read. It was a pleasure.
It is our pleasure. And thank you, Daniel, for giving us Story Hour in the first place. And all of you who are here, all of you who are watching later, thank you for being part of Story Hour, joining us in spinning the fictive dream. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.